In India itself, of course, urban areas have a wide variety of problems. Malnutrition is one, and we've seen how severe it is. There's a lot of infrastructure problems, water and sanitation. And of course, there are problems of social exclusion and how that relates to overall participation of society. So what's coming next is really, now we know some of the problems, but now what's coming next, the two presenters are going to show us how they have actually applied the Urban Health Equity Assessment and Response tool in a practical manner with communities in urban areas or with city officials to then address these health inequalities and to really think about institutionalizing the responses to health inequalities in urban areas. So without further delay, I think Dr. Siddharth Agarwal, who was introduced earlier, is going to make the first presentation on Urban Heart in Bali, and Vani will be back to present Urban Heart in Indore. Okay.
The first part is use of this tool, which is called the Urban Health Equity Assessment and Response tool at a city level to assess ward-wise inequities. There were 35 wards in the city, and we tried to assess inequities, health inequities across these wards, and then what could be done by the stakeholders for addressing those. In India, the city has zones and then wards. Wards is the smallest administrative as well as political unit. There is a similarity in how the cities are structured in Ethiopia also. In fact, your smaller unit called Woreda in some ways even sounds similar to a ward. The word itself isn't very different. We don't know where both words originated. So this is how the city is organized, and the ward is serviced by many departments which are often working sectorally. Monitoring of health inequities is not a regular function at the city level or at the ward level. So that's something which is the context that we were operating in. Bali is a city just outside Kolkata in India. It has 300,000 population, 35 wards. It has a municipal body which directly implements health, water, sanitation, and housing programs. The staff has a very good understanding of ward level situations and has a good rapport with all urban health stakeholders of the city. Our overall process had 8 steps. The first step was to adapt the WHO Urban Heart indicators. So some of you were present in the Urban Heart workshop on the 23rd, and I remember you were present. So some of you might have seen the booklet, or some of you might have seen it online. So there are 4 domains across which the indicators are discussed. The idea is to have a very broad understanding of health, not very narrow. So the domains clearly show that the tool itself tries to remain broad. And the indicators described here are the ones which we either adapted from Urban Heart or we developed new indicators based on the wisdom of the stakeholders of the city. So for example, for the housing domain, we had indicators like access to piped water, improved sanitation, use of solid fuels. These were a few indicators which we added. For example, the road condition, the drainage condition, the gross density per kilometer or per hectare, and door-to-door garbage collection. In human and social development, where the core health indicators also figure, we used immunization, skilled attendance at birth, low birth weight. We added these primary schools in the ward proportion to the population. Coverage and quality of nutrition services. In India, there is a grassroots nutrition program called ICDS. Some of you have heard about this program. It is a program that focuses on nutrition and health for women and children, and there is a grassroots worker, an outreach worker for every 1,000 population. It had started in rural areas more than 30 years ago, and the government is making efforts to expand it to urban areas also. So that is the service we are talking about. Food subsidy outlets proportionate to the population and outreach health service. In the domain of poverty, Secure tenure for housing was an important indicator which we added. Poverty was assessed by a proxy, which is the type of roof or wall material of the house. So a person or a family which is poor will use semi-permanent or non-permanent materials. The family which is less poor will use more permanent materials. So that was the wisdom which came from stakeholders, and therefore this became an indicator. In the governance domain, voter participation is an indicator which we use from Urban Heart. We added an indicator on the functioning of municipal and ward level committees or subcommittees. Step 2 was to identify a local link person to expedite the process. He had a good understanding of the system, had a good rapport with the Bali stakeholders, and knew the local language, and had, of course, vast experience in urban health related issues. Step 3 was a planning meeting with the highest city officer. In cities, all of us have heard about mayors. In India, in somewhat smaller cities, the mayor is called a chairman. We had a planning meeting and buy-in with him, and we developed a plan as to how to proceed, and then he delegated responsibilities to different persons in his office to help us take this forward. Step 4 was a one-day stakeholder consultation where a large segment of diverse stakeholders participated. And this was chaired by the highest authority, by the chairman who we just saw. It helped us gain a basic understanding on inequities and also helped us understand the community perspective. It also helped us identify who could be the likely informants as we move ahead in this exercise, because there were people who were talking in this meeting, and you can gauge who would be a good informant. We were able to collect some reports and documents, and we were able to firm up the core Urban Heart team which would take the assessment process forward. This was the core team. As you can see, they were from diverse backgrounds. So only one person was from health and others were from other backgrounds. So the team itself is multidisciplinary. We were the facilitators, and we had a off-camera guide who's right now sitting here. So he was helping us whenever we ran into trouble, because he is the one who's associated with the Urban Heart module and its trial in many cities and countries. Our step 5 was to fine-tune the indicators and develop criteria for comparing wards. I'll say out some of the codes just as an illustrative example as to how this process happened. We asked them, if you had to differentiate the 35 wards on sanitation, how would you do that? And they said, septic tanks are available in all colonies, so that isn't a good indicator. The second thing they said that we have data on number of community toilets ward-wise, but most of these are not used by the people, so that's not a good indicator. So we said, do we have ward-wise data on number of households per toilet? So they said, we have data on number of household toilets that we had built, which means the municipality had built, but this data is incomplete. However, the chief engineer can tell you offhand, because he is a very senior, he's been working in that city for probably 30 years, and so he knew the city very well. And that is how this criteria emerged, that where population density was high, or the ward in which population density was high, and rented premises were high, persons per toilet ratio is also high as sanitation is poor. So this is the way the eventual criteria for distinguishing wards on sanitation emerged, starting from the conversation here. And why is it important that, can all of you relate to the fact that in rented premises, the persons per toilet ratio will be high? In India, what happens, particularly in poor habitations in cities, is that the person who has a house will make small rooms, and the tenants will take those small rooms. He'll probably create one toilet for 5 rooms. So the person per toilet ratio will become high. And it is the situation not only in India, I've seen this in many developing countries. It's not unusual for such things to happen. So then we took that conversation further, and in which wards is the person per toilet ratio high? On an A4 size paper, we took a hand-drawn map of Bali with all the 35 wards marked. So is Ward 35 bad? The answer was yes. What about Ward 16? As bad as Ward 35. And that is how we got into rolling out the colored pens and discussing as to red meaning bad or needing urgent attention on that particular indicator, yellow meaning moderately bad, needing attention, green meaning good, needing continued efforts. So the next thing was coloring Ward 35 and 16 red, and then you can see this is how with the red pen those wards were colored red. The step 6 was a slum visit. We wanted to observe the situation firsthand. So we did a transect in different wards to observe deprivation. You can see some children. So we did interact with families there to understand their day-to-day challenges. Like one of the challenges that we learned was that the water that comes from the public taps, that comes for only a few hours in a day. And it is the girls or the women in a male-dominated society who usually bear the burden of fetching water. So there are these challenges that we were able to understand, and we were also able to interact with the most peripheral health and nutrition functionaries. These are actually the most peripheral health and nutrition functionaries. They had a small space in one of the slums, which was the space which they used to borrow from a local club and use for their activities. And we were able to also see the perspective of the elected representative of the ward. So this is the hand-drawn output on one indicator. This is the same output converted into GIS. And this is the matrix which shows how the ward looked on different indicators. I mean, we've of course not given the entire matrices, they are long. Because in each domain we have many indicators. This is illustrative and it helps you understand how the scoring was done. But this was more powerful, and this is how it was actually done. This was more like the desk work. Step 8, and this is the last step. The Urban Heart Core team validated all the data. They went through each map on each indicator. Then identified indicators which were poor across most wards, and identified wards which were the most needy, meaning that these wards had several reds. And that is how they prepared a plan. The response plan was finalized in this meeting again with the chairman of the municipality. And this was, at that time they came up with these 7 options. And I'll read out 2. One of the options for improving health outreach in 2 wards which they identified as poor were having ANMs for those wards, and those wards did not have a health sub-center. So who would take the action? The action would be taken by the health officer in partnership with the State Urban Development Authority. SUDA is an acronym used in India for an urban development authority at the state level. It's like a department in the state government for urban development. And the possible source of funds, they were aware that the State Urban Development Authority had unused fund which they could request them to utilize for having ANMs for 2 wards. The other action that they determined was that they would want to conduct some feasibility studies. I'll say 2 for example. One is whether the community is willing and able to pay for subsidized household toilets and household water connections. So they wanted this to be a feasibility study. The second thing is a feasibility on how to do of community garbage management committees. They did feel that if the community manages garbage through a committee, the garbage will be managed better. But then they wanted to understand the feasibility and how these committees will function. And they felt that they could write to educational institutions, and this type of a study could be part of the dissertation of master's students of those educational institutions. So now, Vani, after that.
We'll take questions after your presentation.